There's a lot of chatter in the live chat right now. I mean, we're about 9 minutes past our scheduled start time. And I know that is late, but it's not really late for Only Weird Games standards. But regardless, I just want to come out here. I want to set the tone. Today, this isn't usually how it goes. Today, that one's on me. We were back here in the lab, cooking around, looking at some settings, trying to bring you, valued listener, viewer, voyeur, the best audio quality that we can possibly provide. Now look, should I have started that 10 minutes earlier? Absolutely. Do I have to be better? Absolutely. This one, this slow start, that's on me. The rest of the slow start stuff we're going to talk about the rest of the day, I have no idea how to fix. Time, but a great chat instantly from Nate Dogg noting, Nate's inside. That's how you know the season started early. I know it's not Thanksgiving. I know it's not real football. Well, when you're 0-2, real football starts. The games matter. Nate's inside. Seth Keysor's here. All three of us are here on time, just fine-tuning those details. Fellas, how you feeling? The Chiefs are 0-2 for the first time in the history of the three of us doing a podcast together, which we've been doing for quite a long time.
Yeah, that's one of the few things that went through my mind today. It's one of the few things that went through my mind as I have rewatched Sunday's game several times, gentlemen. It's an unusual feeling. It's a bit awkward, shall I say, weird. And I wasn't trying to get guys in the locker room to essentially say that. I didn't begin a question with, man, this is weird, right? But that was kind of the sense, that was kind of the vibe after Sunday's game, where I think any logical person looks at the box score, and yes, I know, Seth, the box score doesn't tell everything.
It lies.
But the traditional box score did suggest that the better team statistically lost, which I have a concrete theory as to why that occurred. But a lot of guys are trying to not talk to us as the reporters, or even trying to get a message out to the fans, via Andy Reid, when he says, I will take the responsibility for this loss. In a lot of ways, it was like the guys have to talk themselves through it because it has not happened in the Patrick Mahomes era, which was kind of fascinating to see in real time. And yet, there wasn't a lot of bravado or confidence coming from those words. And I'm sure you heard a couple of them, Josh, in the post-game show. But it's not like, hey, we're fine. It's not, relax, guys. It's just 2 games. A lot of it was, I'm upset. I'm pissed. How did we lose? We're 0-2. That feels weird. So we've had, almost, 48 hours to digest this, and yet it still feels unexpected when we knew this was definitely a possibility on kickoff Sunday against the Eagles.
They really should have won, but they didn't. And so now you're in a position to where you're 0-2, and now I think Josh did frame it well. One of the reasons for the Chiefs, real football hasn't started until November, most seasons, not all the time. 2021, they were 3-4 after 7 games. You put yourself in a position to where it has to be real football if you're 0-2, because now you've got a lot of pretty much kind of must-win type situations. You really don't. You've already gotten yourself into a little bit of a hole, and obviously they're waiting for reinforcements at the receiver position. But this is the Giants game. Nothing's a must win, a literal must win until like mid-October. You could start off 0-6.
Right.
But what you're doing is you're narrowing the margin for error.
Mm-hmm.
You're making it to where, some of these games that maybe looked like easier outs earlier in the season or before the season started, maybe they're not as easy outs on the back end. And so it just puts you in a position, those September games, the only thing that matters is whether you win or lose them. Style points, and that might be a better way of talking about real football. The wins and losses are real. What your team looks like doesn't really matter that much. But that's a frustrating one because really, by and large, the Chargers outplayed them. They still had a chance to win, and, it went down the way it went down. They largely outplayed the Eagles and lost. That's a frustrating one, and you're just not seeing the same they just didn't make the plays that they've gotten very used to making, and that would not surprise me as to why they would seem surprised is they just didn't expect it to go down that way. But they've been living on the edge for a year and a half. 2023, they still lived quite a bit on the edge because the defense was elite. It wasn't quite as much on the edge, but it still was. And they've gotten really used to closing out these close games, and I think that was a weird feeling for them. And honestly, it was a weird feeling to me. Like I was genuinely surprised when they lost.
So I want to kind of push you guys each in some specific directions because we're going to get to the swing plays and everything that you alluded to there, Seth. And I think that this game has a ton to take away. I think where the Chiefs are at right now is generally fascinating. But Nate, starting off, you kind of gave us a little bit of the vibe in the locker room, but you've been around this team in the day-to-day now for years now, but specifically these last 2 weeks. What did you see from you can really take it back as far as preparing for the Chargers if you want, but I think the flatness of that and then the post-game comments thereafter are kind of the story. From post-game, we came out flat in Brazil through the locker room on Sunday night at Arrowhead. What have you noticed? What's been the energy? What is there a stunned silence? Is there an emotion through it all? I haven't been in the locker rooms. I'm genuinely curious what the vibe is right now because it's unfamiliar territory. But I would be absolutely floored if anybody thought the season was over.
Yeah, it's what's a good analogy I could come up with? It's like when you're it's like when you're a mature individual. You know what you should be doing. You've done it before. We're going to have a good night out. Nothing crazy is going to happen. I'm going to drink plenty of water. I'm going to set a limit for myself. And, that's what I'm going to do. Because I've always done it that way. And then for whatever reason, circumstances lead you down a different path. And the vibe is like you wake up in the morning and you go, what the hell was that? That's kind of the thought I had, or the feeling, the vibe, whatever you want to call, the lack of aura, I guess, as the kids would say, from the locker room. I'll just be very specific, guys. Travis Kelce was nowhere to be found. Creed Humphrey really didn't want to talk. Trey Smith kind of went through an emotional roller coaster of hey, this can happen, but this isn't normal. To be but man, I thought we played well, but we played a lot better than we did against the Eagles, right? Based on the Super Bowl. But we lost? He was just all up and down. When you go on the defensive side, and I put this in my story for ESPN.com, just independent, unprompted, Nick Bolton and Leo Chenal said the same word, that they were pissed. Because they know, all right, well, it was kind of on us last week, and we just played incredible football, given the circumstances and the fact that the Eagles only scored 2 touchdowns based on short fields. We lost? And I've never experienced this before. And this is more Leo Chenal, but he's like, I've never experienced 0-2 in the NFL. This is 1, 2. It's my 4th year. How are we 0-2? I think Mahomes is probably the most calculated because of his position, because of what he's trying to do internally and externally. He's probably the most calculated in what he said. Although I think there are some very fascinating things that he said that he has not said before, right? Now, he's saying we play two really good football teams. We have to get better. I feel like we're close. That is obviously a direct lineage to Andy Reid, who would always say, like, hey, even if we're winning, the offense doesn't feel perfect yet or hasn't felt fully completed because we're just a tick off doing this right. Still got to figure out this. But we're going to work on that over the course of the season.
Mahomes also did preface it with, I know fans hate hearing this, but we're close, which I thought was, I don't know, kind of fun.
It was. And it was very yeah, I was about to say, it was very self-aware. Chris Jones tried to play it cool after a week ago saying, yep, it was my fault. So there's inherently mixed messaging across the locker room, but the overall approach is mostly shock and mostly like, what did I do? Like, why do I feel hungover? I'm an adult. I know what I should be doing. I didn't go crazy, but like, am I getting old? That's kind of the thought process of like, well, I'm in the situation. It's late in the game. They're a good team. We gonna make the plays. What do you mean we didn't make the plays?
It's interesting hearing players and former players, especially former players, because they're a little more willing to be open about this stuff, talk about what it's like in an NFL locker room when you're losing. It's just such a different sport than any other sport. In that you play one game a week. And one of the reasons the NFL is so successful is because it's an event culture as opposed to, really like the way there's 82 games in the NBA, 162 in Major League Baseball. I mean, there's just so many more games. So you have to, like Bill Belichick, the whole "we're on to Cleveland" thing was pretty famous. And he was right. He was right.
So famous, you nailed the city, he said.
Yep.
Was it Cleveland?
No.
Cincinnati.
Oh, they're just, well.
Yeah.
I could have let it go if I was a better player.
Yeah. And so it's tough to have that mentality, to have a short memory in the NFL because you only have 17 games. It's inherently a really small sample size sport. And you have a week to marinate on things. Contrary to popular belief, thinking about stuff too much is bad. That's called ruminating.
No.
Yeah.
Seth, where were you 15 years ago?
Yeah. Boy, am I gonna be thinking about that all night. But that's really when you're struggling with something, it's one thing to process emotions. It's another thing to sit in them for weeks, months. That's the difference between healthy behavior and unhealthy behavior in terms of processing. Yeah, I know. One of these days I'll learn to process an emotion healthfully, but today will not be that day, sir. Now I use humor. As I always tell people, how can I be sad about it if I'm telling jokes about it? Don't you feel silly?
Don't look at my tears.
Yeah. If I were depressed, why am I making jokes about it? What a weird thing to say. You're weird. Anyway,
I think months of this show go by where people must go by where people wonder what on earth do Josh and Seth have in common. And then every once in a while, Seth goes on like a little 3-minute little sidetrack, and it all comes together.
Yeah,
all the pieces align.
Yeah, it's like, oh, yeah, that our only value as a person is our ability to make people laugh. Like and
it's our favorite tool to tamp everything else down into the deep depths, and maybe we'll deal with it with some sort of terrible failure in our 60s.
I told someone once in a mailbag that they had asked how Josh, you and I specifically are as close as we are because on the surface we don't seem to have a lot in common. Is how they phrased it, and they talked about a few things where they assumed that we have different opinions on different stuff. And one of the things I said was, we agree on like the most important things, but also all of our worst traits are pretty similar.
Really similar.
So
yeah,
that's Yeah, that's fun. So
and everybody,
here's the thing,
I know
though.
the diabetes almost got me, but everybody else ought to be doing Josh, Seth, brain aneurysm parlays. Just dial those things up.
Yeah, it's coming
Leader
like
in the
a freight
clubhouse
train.
for sure.
So, so here's the thing about the NFL. It's hard not to ruminate. It's hard because you have a whole week. And my understanding is NFL locker rooms, it's so much worse because you can't all right, we're going to get him tomorrow. All right, we're going to get back on track tomorrow. You got a whole week of going through the film, of seeing the thing. And the Chiefs just aren't used to it. They almost never lose 2 games in a row. They've never lost 3 in a row before in the Mahomes era. Mm-hmm. And you got to remember, the guys that were drafted in 2022 until last year had always won the Super Bowl. That's insane. So, and then last year, they were actually frustrated last year. And this is the interesting thing to me. I remember it was the Disney documentary, The Kingdom, where Mahomes asked them to cut the camera. I think it was after the win against the Panthers. And, of course, they kept the volume going. And he was like, this is not the standard. This is not how we should be playing. We got to tighten this up. And I wonder if some of the guys that have been around since 2022 think that's adversity, winning like your 7th game in a row or whatever. And
that's
like,
adversity.
Oh, no,
beating the Panthers.
We only have a 1.5 game lead on the 1 seed. They just haven't experienced any of this at the pro level. Now, most people have been, pretty much everyone loses in college. Mm-hmm. I mean, so it's there. And I think I do appreciate what Mahomes said about this it'll be interesting kind of basically to see who's about it. It's also been interesting for me, and I know we've got a bunch of things to talk about. Some former Chiefs have been willing to be a lot more vocal about some of the issues, especially the Schwartz brothers in particular. And the only reason this sprang to mind is I see the first Nagy Bieniemy comment, and one person is kind of talking about what's up for people that aren't on Twitter. It's Andy Reid's offense, people. Mitch Schwartz literally said that phrase on Twitter. Now, we've been telling you that for years, but if you don't believe us...
I wonder how many minutes we were going to get into this before Mitchell Schwartz was our hero on the horse coming down for the cavalry, just slaying all people who think Eric Bieniemy and Matt Nagy are the problem. When what the hell was that play call on 4th and 1, Coach?
Yeah, it's Andy Reid's offense. It always has been. It always will be until he retires. Bieniemy and Nagy have some functions that they serve, but it's Andy Reid's offense. So I just to get that out of the way. They've just never dealt with it quite like this before. The closest that you're going to get was in 2021 where things really looked like they were spiraling, but a lot of the guys on the team weren't here then. And with Kelsey, who, funnily enough, on a snap-by-snap basis, looks way better than he looked last year.
Yep.
He also happens to have 2 of the worst. He also happens to have 2 of the worst plays of the season.
By far.
I mean, yeah, he injured a teammate, and then he basically helped lead to a 14-point swing.
Correct.
And so he's always a guy who's played with emotion, and it's generally served him well. We talked about this last week. I don't think it serves him particularly well when things are going tough all the time. And that's something that you're going to see here. And so much of the Chiefs' heartbeat is Travis Kelce. So I'm curious to see how they respond. And I really like that. Mahomes is framing it that way, because you can bet that's how it's being framed in the locker room. It's like, yeah, guys, this sucks. All right, who's about it? Who's a front runner? Mm-hmm. And who's actually about this? Who's willing to go through some stuff?
Who's willing to scramble and run through a mother bleeper's face?
Right. And we see that with Mahomes. And he has been doing everything possible. Now, Mahomes hasn't been blameless, and we're going to get into a whole bunch of that. But that's the most interesting thing to me, is how unique all of this is. And again, if anyone who thinks this is a Nagy Bieniemy issue, unless you can explain to me what they're doing differently schematically, and I've literally never had someone do it, because you can't. And I just really want to make that clear to people who are listening and watching, and that this is going to tick some people off. I am telling you, Mitch Schwartz is telling you. Jeff Schwartz is telling you.
Right.
Nate Taylor is telling you. It's Andy Reid's offense. I'm sorry that you want to have a scapegoat. I really am. But maybe Andy doesn't have his fastball right now. That's happened to him before, and he's adjusted. That's how you end up for 20 years, being able to come around. But this is not, unless you can tell me schematically how the offense radically changed schematically. It didn't, by the way. It's not it's not necessarily a play call issue. Also, we could talk about the missed opportunities against the Eagles. I mean, Kelsey was open. Like, right. Did Andy Reid call a better play if Mahomes properly layers that throw to Noah Gray that he overthrew on the first drive, and that drive keeps going and they get a field goal instead of nothing? Is that better coaching? No, the look was there. What about the missed shot to Thornton, or the one Thornton didn't bring down? That's not a play calling issue. Sometimes execution stinks. Now, you want to talk about Andy Reid's doing wrong, we can talk about that too. But the reality is we love to place it on the play calling, even when the called play works. Travis Kelce got isolated in the slot, was open on a route he's won a million times, and he dropped it. Bad execution, and it bounced off the other guy. Bad luck.
Right. And it was really cool.
Stuff, and we'll get to that.
Right. It was really cool in the moment for Tom Brady to say he's a tick slow. He was a tick slow getting his head around, and Pat was a tick faster getting the ball out. And those half seconds, if you want to call them a third of a second, those things matter in terms of the play is designed for you. Now, I think Kelsey used a little bit more hesitation to set up. Was it Cooper DeJean that he was setting up to get open? I'd have to go back and look. But he used a little bit more time to create a space. But based on Patrick's timing of what the play is supposed to be in terms of speeding it up, he throws it. He's going to throw it hard. We talked about this with Brashard Smith in training camp. Gotta get your head around quick, son. Red zone, it goes fast. It's just those little mistimings that lead to a mistake like that. Last thing I'll say from the locker room: you're going around and you're like, "Hey, who is gonna say something? Who's gonna say the most honest thing today?" Is honestly how you should go about it, because again, my job is to get some level of truth and communicate it to you guys as fans so that you have an understanding of what the hell is going on. I did not anticipate that was going to come from Hollywood Brown, but Hollywood Brown said the most honest thing in the locker room, and I asked him, what can you identify as the reason you guys are not being consistent? We all know you're talented. We all know you can score. Why are you being inconsistent? And it was Hollywood Brown who said, to Seth's point, quote, "It's just a lack of execution. It takes all 11 every single play. We've got to get on the same page and do that every single play." And guys, they haven't gone a quarter doing that this year.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about some more of the miscues and the missing swing plays and all of that here in just a second. We got to take our first timeout, but first I'm going to tell you, you want to get involved in the action. You can't suit up, you can't run a route, but Chiefs fans, you could be on the field at the 50 inside GEHA Field for the official coin toss at a Chiefs home game this season. Visit Chiefs.com/GEHA now. Enter to win a chance to be on the field for a once-in-a-lifetime view of the pre-game coin toss. Plus, you can score other exclusive prizes. Enter for a chance to win at Chiefs.com/GEHA. GEHA is the proud partner of the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll take a break, come back, and talk a little more about what the Chiefs were missing on Sunday.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
What's up, guys? I'm BJ Kissel, founder and CEO of KC Sports Network, and I'm here to talk to Kansas City businesses. If you rely on technology, you need an IT support team that's not just another vendor, but a true IT partner. That's why I want to introduce you to my friend and neighbor, KJ Miller. He is a VCIO at ThrottleNet, the Midwest's highest rated and most reviewed IT support company. They've been in business for more than 25 years, helping companies stay secure, productive, and ahead of the curve. They aren't just IT support, but they provide data security, IT strategy, and cloud software services. They do it all, and their reviews show they do it better than anyone else. So if you want to hear about how ThrottleNet can help your local business, join the conversation with myself, KJ Miller from ThrottleNet, and our resident genius from KC Sports Network when it comes to IT, at least as he's affectionately known by us, Mr. Craig Stout. Click the link in the description to hear how ThrottleNet can help you.
Interesting the way that we typically talk about these exact plays here, Seth, where very often a timely play makes you clutch, right? You have the clutch gene, and it's something that it becomes intrinsic to players. And like, for example, Travis Kelce has always been enormously, quote unquote, clutch. Then he has a drop that pops up, turns into a pick, basically a 14-point swing, as you said. Josh Simmons was the guy that prevented it from being a literal 14-point swing all on that play. That guy can move. Knee seems okay. Shout out to Josh Simmons. But with that in mind, I want to eventually talk about the fourth down that was stuff that you wrote about, because I feel like the specifics of that are really, really fascinating. But when you talk about swing plays that the Chiefs have won these one-possession games on, I guess I'll also add this. The Chiefs are currently having a one-possession game regression, where a lot of times you can say clutch, you can say luck, you can say close games come down to which side of the football the stitches are on when it hits the receiver. Like, it is just it is a weird sport where the ball isn't round and these finite details end up flipping games. What led you to the conclusion that the Chiefs simply aren't making those swing plays that they've made in so many recent years?
You know, the easiest, quickest example, even going outside the Eagles game, which was obviously a closer game, so it's going to be more hang on the results of one player. Not. If you just look at the Chris Jones miss against Herbert to close out the Chargers game, when Jones immediately won his rep, I assumed that he was going to sack Herbert or chase Herbert to the wrong spot, and they would punt. And there's not a Chargers fan in the world that wouldn't have believed that it was over if the Chiefs got the ball back with 3 minutes left. I think they had 2, maybe 3 timeouts, down 6. Like, no Chargers fan on earth would have been like, oh, yeah, I'm very comfortable right now. We would have assumed it was over. But he didn't bring him down. Herbert made a great play. And Spags, in my opinion, should have had Hicks playing. And maybe Hicks was supposed to be a little more center field than he was. He got drawn out of position. Had he not, it's whatever. But that's a play we've seen Jones make a million times.
Yep.
And he didn't. Now, the other guy gets paid too. And Jones, by and large, if you watch the tape against the Eagles, let me just tell you, Chris Jones is the thin red line between what's happening now and some real catastrophes, which, by the way, shout out to the defense, played really well against the Eagles, who didn't have a really inspired game plan, but have a lot of talent. They played well. Thank you. That's one thing I wanted to see, right?
Mm-hmm. It's one thing that we're not going to spend enough of today talking about, because there are things that are concerning and scary. We were like high alert. The defense looks like it might be broken. I think the pass rush still has a significant amount to prove outside of Chris Jones. But I'm going to mention that, Seth. The defense absolutely did their job against the Eagles.
Absolutely.
And Chris Jones was very disruptive in the running game, I felt on Sunday. Like, shooting gaps, making Saquon go where he didn't want to go. And it's clear that he's still an above average pass rusher, but we're still looking for Charles Omenihu. We're still looking for George Karlaftis.
Well, and the Omar Norman Lott sack, that happened because of complimentary pass rush. Several guys, Jones was eating 2 blockers and making them work. Like, that's a real double team, right?
Yeah,
that's not just slid protection to you. You were making those 2 guys work. Omenihu won his rep. Karlaftis crushed the pocket. And Omar Norman Lott didn't really win his rep. That's why it took Hurts stepping up. But he did keep working, showed a little bit of that bend around. And, man, I have not seen Hurts take a hit like that in a while. Like, that was – that I watched that. I was like, oh, that would suck. Oh, can you imagine getting hit so hard as an adult that your feet are in the air? That'd be awful. But anyway, decleated. And Brian Cook looked so much more like what he's looked like. Hicks and him played a lot better. I think you really saw something there with him and Hicks in terms of like, okay, when they're not miscommunicating, that safety combo, I like it. But anyway, be all that as it may, the swing plays, they didn't make them. So you got Chris Jones that first game. There were a few other ones there. But this is one where just multiple plays didn't get made. They didn't convert on a 4th and 1. And for all the angst about, Chiefs short yardage stuff over the last few years, last year in particular, when they really needed a 3rd and 1 or a 4th and 1, they converted at an absurdly high rate. That's a play that they're used to making. Now, some of that is the Mahomes factor. For years, when it's really come down to it, they've converted on 4th and 1, especially 4th and 1, 4th and 3, whatever. Part of that is Mahomes. Part of that is Andy Reid. How many times have we seen that, play action, roll out, finding a guy in the flat, wherever? Like, we've just seen it a million times.
Right.
This time, they decided to run a scheme that required a pulling blocker, which when it's 4th and short and you're facing the type of scheme like what the Eagles play, everyone's going to be firing up field and you're pulling Creed Humphrey, which means that someone's got a gap, which means what you need from Kingsley, or you need not Kingsley, because you're pulling Creed and driving straight ahead.
Right.
You need Jawan Taylor to seal off a defensive tackle, the type of block that's hardest for him because he's not a power-based guy. And then you're asking Kareem Hunt to come across the formation, moving laterally, a guy with no burst. It was a bad design.
It was a bad decision. It was a bad decision in real time compared to what Andy Reid has traditionally done, which is show faith in my defense. It's a tie game. I have the better quarterback. We will get the ball next drive. We will take it from here. And we're also not close to midfield at all. Like, the drive just started. It just ended. We just started the 3rd quarter. It was so bizarre compared to who he's been. And then you add on top of that the play selection, which did not fool the Eagles.
And I actually have no problem with them going for it. No problem with how the offense was playing. It's 4th and short. I wish they'd go for it almost constantly. But here's what I don't understand. You've got to play this little quick handoff power. You've got someone running a combo block up front that we've seen them convert on 4th and 1 a million times. I don't know why you don't run that. I don't know why you don't. I mean, people were saying this during the game. If your quarterback's lowering his shoulder against safeties, maybe let him run a sneak. Right. These are all possibilities. But the play call is what drove me nuts because it specifically was asking guys to do things they're not that good at. Jawan Taylor, the penalties are driving me insane. Overall, he's played pretty well this year, but he's not a power guy. He's not built to drive a defensive tackle inside the way he had to. And then you've got to account for the other teams. Nolan Smith is one of the best edge defenders in the game in terms of being a force defender when you're pulling someone.
That defensive tackle, his name is Jalen Carter. He is not your average defensive tackle.
And so you're just asking, and then the idea there is Carter's going to be trying to get up the field, and so that gives you some momentum. But it just, the biggest thing to me is asking Taylor to do that and asking Kareem Hunt to get lateral. And I was going to write about Josh Simmons. I'm probably going to write about something else first. Their run game itself, they're asking guys to get lateral who just can't get lateral. Pacheco's more explosive than Hunt, but that's not saying a lot. He's still not a guy that wins the race to the edge often enough to really justify those looks. And the problem is he's not running really great between the tackles. But we'll come back to that. But these swing plays. So you've got the 4th and 1. That's an Andy Reid swing play that he normally makes a zillion times out of a zillion. Travis Kelce with that drop. He's made that play so many times. He's won that so many times. And that play right there, that was like, if they score the touchdown there, or if the ball just bounces a different way, I think the Chiefs probably win. That's a huge swing play. I think, what was it? It was like, it cost them, what was it? It was like a 7.1. It was worth negative 7.1 points. And it moved the expected win probability.
We don't need advanced stats to know what my eyes just saw.
Yeah. From 53% to 24%. That's unbelievable.
And the beauty of that is, Seth, how he catches the ball, it's 17-13. Think about this, ladies and gentlemen. That would have been their biggest lead of the entire season. They have not had a 4-point lead at any point in 2 games this season, which means, hey, the defense now knows we just got to protect the goal line, right? Obviously, the crowd would be juiced. Maybe it'd be harder to protect some of these Steve Spagnuolo blitzes that were very effective throughout the game. You might remove Saquon Barkley from the equation a little bit because, hey, maybe Jalen Hurts is asked to pass more, being down 4 instead of, being up by 3. So yeah, there's we're surprised Andy. Thank you, Mizzou 19. We're surprised Andy Galaxy breaks something.
Yes, and that's my point. Have you not been here for the last 3 Super Bowl wins and 2 other Super Bowl appearances? Are we still doing the because Chiefs thing?
Yep.
You are in the middle of one of the 2 most successful dynasties in league history. Of course we expect them to succeed. That's all they've done for 6 years.
Josh,
and so that's where it just drives me nuts that we're still acting as though Andy hasn't succeeded a billion times here. He has. That's one reason why they went 15-2 last year, because they kept succeeding in those high margin, in those swing moments. And this is where it's like, oh I can't believe, typical Andy. No, it's not typical Andy. It's
Josh,
atypical Andy.
We were afraid of Steve Spagnuolo's windows before Sunday's game. I think a couple bricks went through Andy Reid's windows, metaphorically speaking.
Jeepers.
That's too close to a story that got reported within the last 2 months for me to make a joke about it.
Oh, come on! That's why I said it!
And so here's the other thing. So you've got the Kelsey play. You've got Andy
Theoretically.
Reid there. You've got Trent McDuffie, who is basically the perfect cornerback, but he doesn't have elite ball skills. And so he just didn't get his head turned around in time. Devontae Smith made a great play on the ball. It was just that's a swing play, right? If McDuffie knocks that down or defends it better, and that's a play we've seen McDuffie make. And I know people will be like, oh, in the Super Bowl, A.J. Brown beat him deep. Yep, and a million other times he's made that play. In another Super Bowl, he absolutely destroyed Debo in the end zone. These are plays that they're used to making. Patrick Mahomes had Tyquan Thornton wide open, which, by the way, Andy calls some good plays. Okay. Now, to be fair, the defenders tripped over each other. But, I mean, they ran, actually, the route combination they had there was perfect for the coverage they'd called up regardless. He had Thornton wide open, missed him. Let me tell you, that would have been – there was another minute that drained from the clock, which meant the Eagles would have had to get 2 first downs instead of 1. And it means they wouldn't have felt the need to onside kick it, which means that it changes the play calling dynamic there.
All you would be going for is a field goal, not a touchdown, because it would be 17 to or 20 to 17. Hopefully you get a stop, they punt, you get a couple shots to get in field goal range.
It's just an entirely different scenario. They've been winning on those margins long enough that I think they've started to expect it, and for good reason. If everyone says 1-score games are largely luck dependent, and there's some truth to that. But if you show year after year after year that you're better at winning those games, and I think a lot of that is they have 4 of the best closers in the league: Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, and Harrison Butker. Butker missed a 58-yard field goal. How many points did they lose by, Josh? I think it was 3.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And
so
the Eagles flipped that into points too.
Yeah. So, and then, that led to them having excellent field position, and they flipped that into points. So they are used to winning on these margins. And here's the thing. People can talk about the roster, and I get certain aspects of it. But honestly, and here's the light at the end of the tunnel. The guys that normally make these plays haven't. That's probably going to turn around because Kelce
and Travis Kelce's 2 most egregious mistakes weren't that he didn't have the step that he used to have, which I'm weirdly heartened by.
Which was the biggest concern entering the season. Yes.
Right. You were going to say, Seth, that Kelce's tape
looks better than it did last year, and probably better than it looked in 23. He looks faster, looks quicker. He's winning more one-on-ones. They just need to get someone else going around him. And so his tape looks good. Jones's tape looks good. It's just they've missed on some of these margin plays, some of these swing plays. So I understand that I kind of talked a lot there. But that really is kind of the key thing, is that they actually are really close. But now the thing is, are you able to keep doing what you're doing and execute at a higher level rather than just throwing the baby out with the bathwater?
Well, they used to be the most comfortable team in one-score games, and they didn't look that comfortable in the fourth quarter. I think that's what's somewhat alarming from a coaching standpoint and from a player standpoint, is that, hey, again, I understand the thought process of just get it to the fourth quarter. We got the horses. We will win the race. But it's unfortunate that in 2 games they have made uncharacteristic mistakes. And that even extends to the coaching staff as well. A lot of which we've already said. I just love the idea, and I wish announcers did this more often, so I will give credit to Tom Brady here, who is, yes, a minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders.
Having 3 meetings a week with Chip Kelly? Him? That guy?
That guy. So you're up 10. This is the last thing I want to say. You're up 10-7. You get the ball, start the second half. When Tom Brady says, "Why are you calling a timeout?" Okay, that's enough. That's enough for me. I don't need to see anymore. Like, you're not under the pressure of the clock. The opposing offense is. You call a timeout, they get adjusted, they still get in field goal range. What has your offense showed over the last 28 minutes to make you believe that you were going to get in field goal range yourself within less than a minute? So, again, some of the decision-making from the coaching staff, and another thing that would worry me, Seth, is they played the first half like they thought Vic Fangio was going to have the same game plan.
And that's one area, that and the fact that they won't stop running outside zone looks from shotgun.
That take forever with these running backs.
Andy hasn't been blameless with what we're seeing in terms of the offense. And that's one of the things that I'm going to write about in terms of it seems like there's been several separate years where you got to just run straight ahead.
Yeah.
And this year, more than anything, left to
I
right,
agree.
you've got 4 guys that can block straight ahead.
Yep.
And Kingsley, Creed, Trey, you've got some great combo block possibilities there. And so, I mean, that might be something we'll maybe talk more about Thursday. But Andy has not done his best work this year. When he says that this is on him, some of it is. A great deal of it. Now, again, I know I just went on a rant about, there were failed execution. And that's the thing. You talk about all of it. All of it matters in close games.
Yes.
Andy, the offense doesn't look appreciably different from last year. And I understand missing Worthy, missing Rice. But, Thornton is getting open deep. Let's dial it up more. There are things that they could be doing differently that they're not. That's a problem. Lack of talent at running back, huge problem. These things are all issues, and they all come together. But those swing plays are the biggest difference maker between wins and losses. The Chiefs look just as good these last 2 weeks as they looked pretty much every week last year. And keep in mind, both the Chargers and the Eagles are 2-0, had 2 of the best defenses in the league last year. And it's a 2-game sample size. I'm really not going to freak out until early October, honestly. We'll see how they look against the Giants. Ravens game is going to be big. I mean, we've got all this. But they don't look like a worse team than they looked last year. And actually, I think they look like their ceiling might be higher. They just are missing on the swing plays, and now you're in an 0-2 hole, and the margin for error is shrinking.
We'll talk about the margin for error and several other things you guys just touched on after our second timeout. Remember, I got to burn 2 of these every show now. 2 timeouts, no second guessing my clock management.
What's good, everyone? It is KCSN betting analyst Benny Heiss. Something hit me as I was driving to the Missouri side, ironically, for something not available on the Kansas side. I cross over. I just can't get over how long sports fans in the state of Missouri have been waiting. It feels like forever. Good news is you don't have to wait much longer because DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is finally coming to the Show Me State. And if you're thinking, yeah, but I got to wait on the sidelines until December 1st, it's not true. You can sign up right now And when we go live, new Missouri customers get $300 in bonus bets just for placing a $5 bet. $5. That's not even as much as a pumpkin spice latte that's going to take over. So it's not some ragtag sports, but this is DraftKings. You got live in-game betting. So if your team starts hot, you could jump in mid-play. There's lightning fast payouts. None of that wait 3 days for your money nonsense. And you've got more ways to get in on the action. There's no better way to start. It's all from your phone. When we go live, you'll be betting with a sportsbook trusted by millions, safe, secure, fast withdrawals, everything you want. Well, except maybe a guarantee that your team will cover the spread, but that part's still on you. So here's the move. You download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use code KCSN, and when we go live December 1st, that $5 bet turns into $300 in bonus bets. That is code KCSN in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus and physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after they are issued. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
We've talked about some of the upside of a much better defensive performance, and you mentioned some places where the running game can still improve. Nate, we've already kind of done the narrative thing of like where they're at emotionally or vibes-wise right now. But, you know, we'll spend more time looking specifically at the Giants on Thursday. But in all the things that you and Seth kind of touched on there, what has you thinking, well, if they pull this lever, something interesting will happen?
I do like Seth's idea of running forward. If they get Xavier Worthy back for Sunday's game against the New York Giants, there might be some misdirection elements as an easy way to get him the ball on the perimeter to where he can go out of bounds in terms of helping to protect himself. Have we seen a screen pass?
I think there was one to like Noah Gray or something. I remember it being a weird target for it.
The ones they've tried to set up, honestly, teams are sitting on.
Yep.
That's been that way for a couple years here.
What about a traditional running back screen play?
That I haven't seen.
The most easiest of buttons, and you can take this all the way down to high school. Boys are going to run it on first down. If we get another first down, we're going to run it on first down. Hell, if we get another first down, we're going to run it on first down. And on second down, we're going to get under center and play action and let me find someone in the intermediate area not named Travis Kelce. Let's let Travis... And they used to do this all the time for Noah Gray, which I find to be interesting that they really haven't involved him in the offense much. But let's use Travis Kelce's gravity to take defenders away, and let's find somebody else. If it's based on his speed, if it's Tyquan Thornton, excellent. If it's Noah Gray, awesome. To where you can find somewhere in the middle of the field or on those, somewhat deep crossers, corner routes, where you can do play action. I think there's a number of things you can do. Again, I'm certain the Chiefs offensive coaches know all of this. But I don't know. And some of it is based on the opponent, right? I have to be mindful that you have to be terrified of the Eagles, right? So it's okay for me to say, you know what, 5 out, maybe bring the running back in just to give you an idea on maybe it's match zone, maybe it's man. Okay, the running back's back in to the backfield in shotgun, and now Mahomes can find his matchups and quickly get the ball out of his hands. Problem with that is ain't a soul out here breaking tackles. And ultimately, guys, I went home. I'm gonna ask a question that I already know the answer, but I want the audience to think about it. I went home last night or Sunday night, guys, and I was like, you know what? I didn't really get that. I didn't get the full effect of Red Zone. Although the witching hour was mighty tasty. You know what? Let me cycle through these games. Wow. Whoa. I don't think a running back for the Chiefs has made anyone miss a tackle yet. I think Xavier Worthy made Cooper DeJean look foolish. Okay. And I remember Tyquan Thornton making a guy kind of miss. Travis Kelce stiff-armed a guy. But if you look around the league, especially early in September, and I think it gets harder as the season goes along because defenders get used to tackling more. There were so many broken, missed tackles, poor angles, and none of that has gone on with the Chiefs this season. And I don't know how you coach that, but you got to find ways to get guys the ball in space. There was one time where Mahomes checked it down to Isaiah Pacheco. He was immediately tackled.
Yeah. And he had a head of steam in space. You're one-on-one with a defender who's got to close in sprinting. You are supposed to win that matchup usually as a running back unless it's an elite linebacker. Like, you're generally supposed to win that matchup and at least fall forward for an extra 3 or 4 yards. And that just they really I have no idea if Brashard Smith is the answer. I have no idea.
Got to start seeing it, though.
I would love to see him get more carries because what they're currently doing. And those are the things, right? There's some things they can't control. Worthy getting hurt's a bummer. Rice's suspension.
Thank you, Nate Dogg. Tucker put it on the screen, kids. I knew the answer, and someone was going to find the answer. Pat Mahomes is the only guy on the offense consistently breaking tackles, which is why he leads the team in rushing yards.
And it's just, that's not a sustainable way to do business as an offense. So there are things they can control before Rice and Worthy are back. And honestly, a lot of the problems their offense has right now in terms of juice, Rice and Worthy really go a long way towards fixing.
Yes.
Especially with what Thornton is showing. We're not going to have time to talk about him a ton. I'm excited about Tyquan Thornton. I think he legitimately takes the top off of defenses. And right now, I think there's defensive coordinators on the back half of the schedule saying, man, guys, that's really going to suck when Worthy is out there with Rice. And now, assuming they don't just pull him off the field, which they absolutely should not, because he's taking the top off defenses in a way that, honestly, he's getting open deep more often than MVS did. So that's a bright spot. There's buttons they can push here. Run the ball downhill. Let Brashard Smith get some chances here. Get under center a little more often. There's buttons that can be pushed, and Andy so far isn't pushing them. We'll see what it looks like in another month and a half. Andy's earned the benefit of a doubt, not just over these last 6 years, but over the course of his entire career. But that doesn't make him unassailable when things just look like a slog for the Chiefs every week. And this is the third year in a row that we're saying that. That matters.
Mm-hmm.
I want to offer, this is my one really detailed way down the roster nitpick for the show. And I think I mentioned this on some level, I believe in the first episode of Everything Else with Joshua Brisco, which you can watch live Mondays and Fridays on KC Sports Network, the same YouTube channel this is on, but it's a different podcast feed. So you have to search for Everything Else with Joshua Brisco if you want to listen to that show. When the roster cuts were happening and the practice squads were being built. So it's kind of weird to me. I can't remember if I ever said it on this show, but it's kind of weird to me that 2 practice squad spots are going to Carson Steele and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Because I can hear the argument for either of them having a practice squad spot, but the argument for both of them is kind of confusing. This is made only more, and I don't think a single running back is going to necessarily fix all these problems, but also the individual running back play has been poor. The Chiefs' running back strategy this offseason was have Pacheco get healthy, which I think I was buying stock on that I'm now questioning. Also, quick asterisk,
Yeah.
I really wish Isaiah Pacheco would have gotten 30 more snaps in the preseason. Because then I feel like I would know right now, like, is he like kind of timid and getting back into the swing of things? Or does he not have the burst anymore? But he looked like he had some burst in the preseason. And now I want to see, I wish he could just get 15 straight carries in a vacuum somewhere.
Per Next Gen Stats, he and Saquon Barkley pretty similar in miles per hour.
Yeah, but you got to change direction eventually.
So the Chiefs are buying that Pacheco's going to come back healthy and look better, and so was I. I don't know that he's my favorite RB1 in the world, but like I heard that. You bring back Kareem Hunt, and you just have to believe that he's going to be the guy you saw last year in the best case scenario. He's not going to change from that point. And they bring in Elijah Mitchell, who's like a gamble on health and still being healthy after very serious injury. You bring back Mitchell, and then you draft Rashard Smith in the 7th round, which we're all on board with from the beginning, even though lots of people wanted running back earlier, which I get. They have 4 running backs on the roster, and I think Pacheco has a little bit of TBD left. Again, I am not completely out on that, just because I think we also need to not be out on that, because the other options are scary. And then Rashard Smith, total ceiling gamble. We're just going to find out, and hopefully sooner rather than later, I want to see him on the field. You know exactly what Kareem Hunt is, and Elijah Mitchell has a roster spot, but was a healthy scratch the first 2 weeks of the season. You have 6 running backs on the 70-man roster. It's 70 with Chew Godric as your 17th practice squad guy, right? You've got a 70-man roster with 6 running backs. How many of them do the Chiefs want to give the football to? 2.5, maybe?
Two.
And the scary thing to this point, really, it's been 2, and maybe 1.5. Nate, honestly, I understand Carson Steele's there because you might have an injury and want his special teams ability. You might want to actually play with a fullback thing later in the season.
Well,
totally
that's
get it.
That's what it's bad when your team is 0-2 and you talk to your father, and your father, again, Michael Taylor, says, "I think we need a fullback." And I say, "Well, Dad, he's on the roster.
They can call him up."
He's
so
like,
I'm cool with Carson Steele.
He's like, they need a fullback to show the running back where to go. And I said,
just follow
buddy,
42.
Coach. I was like, "Ooh, buddy, then it got real bad real quick, Dad."
It did. So like I get why Steele's on the roster. And independently, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he doesn't have the burst, obviously, but like glue guy, everybody loves him, and he knows the offense, and you can have a guy who knows the offense with a very known number of outcomes for him. You can have him on your practice squad basically for free. Totally get that.
Yes.
If he's your 4th running back. But he is, I believe, he's running back 6, and Carson Steele is like utility Swiss Army knife running back 5. And Elijah Mitchell has an active roster spot. And I would just like for one of those 6 spots to be a guy with some unknown ceiling. Just make it whichever your favorite running back was who got cut at cut downs. Can that guy be on the practice squad? Do they have hope for Elijah Mitchell still? He's on the active roster, so like clearly there's some thought there. So they can't be happy with their running back room, but I'm not sure I understand what the vision is for these 6 guys on the 70-man roster when they really only seem to like 1.5 of them as running backs right now. And none of them have burst. Hunt's been fine, like he's done his job more often than anybody else in that mix, but
per the advanced metrics, advanced analytics stat me down, Seth. Kareem Hunt's been the most effective running back on the team this year. And it's not close.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Not close, kids. Who's got more touches? Not Kareem Hunt. So think about it from this standpoint. Kareem Hunt is your 3rd down, short yardage running back. He has largely excelled at that role when you don't give him the ball on 4th and whatever the hell that was, where, oh my God, can we start? Can you get a running start like the CFL before you snap the ball? As I've told you guys before, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is your assistant to the assistant running backs coach, okay? He is not getting on the field at any point this season unless unless a catastrophe happens, right?
Just hire him as that then. I'd like the practice squad spot if that's the deal here.
So, look, if it's Todd Pinkston, if it's Elliott, if it's Coach Elliott, if it's Clyde, I'm just glad Mitchell Schwartz said it, because dog. Just run to the hole. Run to where the play's designed. Isaiah, don't get so frantic that you forget how the play's supposed to develop in terms of timing, patience, angles, burst. Can we get to the hole, right? I mean, I know how I sound right now, but we just need to get you to the hole, and then you can go through that hole. But that's not happening. I don't know if we want to see more RPOs, but that's a way for at least Patrick to hand the ball off with the defense kind of anticipating the slant or the out or the dig. I don't know. Seth, help me. Elijah Mitchell showed you diddly squat, and they couldn't get him off the books because nobody wanted to take him. So I don't know if we're going to see Elijah Mitchell in uniform. I have no idea. Maybe his hamstring is getting healthier over the course of the next month, and he'll be back to the player that he was promised to be. I don't know. But you should... I know, y'all. I just said give him a month. I know I just said give him 4 weeks. But we halfway through that, guys, and it's not great. The benefit is that Isaiah Pacheco had one of his best football games in the Meadowlands, in MetLife Stadium. They're going back to MetLife Stadium. He is from New Jersey. He will have all his family and crew in the building, and Lord willing, he will play better. That's the positive I can put on it. But statistically, advanced metric-wise, yards over expected,
Pacheco's negative in that stat.
He's one of the worst running backs in the league right now.
And that's where, honestly, I mean, what would I do? I would try out Brashard Smith, and in the meantime, I'd give Hunt more carries and switch to a power-based attack. Pacheco just hasn't looked particularly good, and that's really unfortunate.
Yeah,
I mean,
it really
is. That's not
because he showed signs of himself in the preseason, which gave us, I think, a lot of optimism, but that has not translated in the regular season.
And so, yeah, there's buttons they can push here, whether or not they will. Andy isn't a guy who hits the panic button very quickly, but 0-2 is a time to really reflect on what your approach looks like and what you're doing. So, well, I'll be curious to see if they do change anything up, because there are buttons they could push.
Comment here from Lucky Tom said, in conclusion, everyone's bad, season's over, Hunt should sell the team to Taylor, and your dad is mad. Perfect. Thank you, Tom. Tom, you could have saved us you could have saved us 63 minutes of talking about this, because that I'm pretty sure that's right. Well, that is a show and then some for you here today on Only Weird Games. We'll be back on Thursday to look ahead to the Giants a little more, hear what else the Chiefs say this week. I'm sure those pressers will be pretty interesting, and we'll see where we go from there. So, Seth, if you got nothing else to say, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna just hand the ball right off. Nate, I just want you to run straight forward. I don't need you dancing in the backfield. I need you to hit the hole and end the show.
Get in that hole and let's go. For everything that has occurred through 2 games, I just want to remind people that the team you root for still has Patrick Mahomes, who leads the league in yards per attempt. The man said, fine, I'll do it myself.